then you are now using our gift that all humans have of sensing others across space and time. And when you can sense people across space and time, which is part of the fabric of reality that a lot of people don't understand, but it's real and science has proven it. But when you can do this, you can also sense people in the future and in the past. You can sense events in the future and the past. Now it's This is Jeanne Mayell, and this is your Superior Self.
Jeanne, thank you so much for joining the show. I cannot wait for this conversation. We had a previous conversation months ago, I think it was, and it was fantastic and powerful. I have to say that I really, truly love your work.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
And thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy. You're just, you're phenomenal. I'm a big fan. Why don't you give everyone a quick background? Like, what is it that you do? What are you up to? What's going on?
Okay. So, I call myself an intuitive, and I feel that I'm especially intuitive, but I feel everyone's intuitive. I'm also a teacher, and there isn't anything I do that I don't want to show other people how to do too. So I'm not one of these intuitive reader people who just goes one way from me to people. I really love bringing people together. So what I did a few years ago was start teaching people how to do what I was doing and posting their predictions on my website along with my own. And it was just something I wanted to add to the conversation about intuition, because I am fascinated with intuition. It is one of the great mysteries, and it's completely tied in with spirituality, with consciousness, with psychology, and with the great mysteries of our universe. And so I decided to start blogging about it, and then I taught people how to read the future. And I started posting what they were getting and what I was getting. And then it wasn't supposed to be the main thing on my website, but it was one of those things that really clicked with people because they were worried about the future and worried about what was happening in America. And it really took off. So it's not the only thing I do, but it is part of the whole idea of teaching people to wake up to their own intuition. And then I also give readings every day. I meet with people on the phone, and even the way I do that is not typical. I specialize. I really want to help people to find out who they are. And it's not that I know who they are, but when we meet and I'm giving a reading, it starts to come out, and that's very wonderful and special for everyone, including me.
Sure. So you can see into the future, right? Or you can pick up on that. Now, is the future like a set destination, like point A to point B, or is it kind of like free will? I know free will has a play in that, but it's like, is it more probabilistic or is it on a certain course?
It's a fascinating topic, and no one really understands it, but it's tied in with our ability to sense the world and other people across space and time. So if you, and all humans do this, but not everyone knows that they're doing it, and not everyone is as good as other people. But if you can sense another person's feelings, thoughts, activities, when you wouldn't have any way of knowing except that you sense it or feel it, then you are now using our gift that all humans have of sensing others across space and time. And when you can sense people across space and time, which is part of the fabric of reality that a lot of people don't understand, but it's real and science has proven it. But when you can do this, you can also sense people in the future and in the past. You can sense events in the future and the past. Now, it's not hard and fast. I find that it's much harder to read an individual's future direction than it is to sense what the whole world or the whole collective is going to do, because we have free will and we change. And sometimes I am not even sure if we're actually seeing a set event in the future, although it does happen that we see things and then they come true and people are like, oh my God, how'd you do that? But it seems more like what we're sensing is something within them that is in play. And that can change.
Interesting.
Complicated answer.
Yeah, no. I like it. It's tough though, right? Because it's like, because like people come to you, I'm sure they come to you all the time. What does my future look like? What does it look like? Because I did the same thing, right? I talked to you about my future and where I want to go, my goals, and the free will comes into play. But it's also like your drive to and your belief in yourself, really, right? And what you're trying to do in that collective consciousness. I just had a conversation today about the collective consciousness where I feel like the more that you put in, the more the work that you put in yourself, the more that you provide the earth with this positive energy, the more that you adapt, the more that you become more aware, the higher levels of consciousness that you can access. And the more, I don't want to say better data, but there's different parts of the universe that you can tap into that will allow you to have insight to different things. Like for me, I never, looking back on my life, never thought that I'd be here right now having a conversation with you about consciousness. Just never thought it was in the cards. However, I adapted. I worked on myself, stayed motivated. Definitely was attacked by the ego quite a bit. Definitely fell down quite a bit. But I'm adapting, evolving as a conscious being, and I am through meditation and through conversations like this and being in flow, collective flow states. I am accessing different levels of consciousness, different levels of data, and I'm having so much fun, like just having conversations with you, Jeanne, about your story and where you've come from. I mean, you got an amazing story. I mean, you went to Harvard. I mean, you graduated with a graduate's degree. You said you're a teacher. You're teaching people how to be intuitive. Like that's not on anyone's list in the college. No one's teaching that in college. Like you're doing this on the side, having fun. I mean, and putting their predictions up on your website. How fun is that?
Well, I live the life that I love, and I made that choice many years ago. I had a traditional job and I did all the things that society wanted me to do and my parents wanted me to do. And I reached a point where I just thought this is a waste of time if I don't want to do it. So the interesting thing is that when you follow what you want, what turns you on, what excites you, what you're enthusiastic about, you're actually tapping into the direction of humanity. So you are much more likely to end up providing some sort of work that humanity needs. And I have no doubt they'll be teaching intuition years from now. That it'll be, well, it's people are interested in it now, but I have no doubt that this is the direction that humanity is going. And so I didn't do it for that reason. I did it because I wanted to, because it mattered to me. And then I suddenly found people interested in what I had to offer. I think when you're doing a job you hate, it might be that is still a needed job in the world, but it might not be what you're cut out for. It might not be what you're here for.
I agree.
Yeah.
No, that's just I have so much thought on it. It's just the resistance of the flow, right? Like that uneasiness, unhappiness, you're feeling that resistance. Some people can stay with that and be comfortable where they're at and not care about it. And then eventually the universe stops trying to push them in a different way. I feel like that, right?
Too, yeah.
But then there's other people that curiosity develops, the universe starts pushing you. They start following the breadcrumbs, and it takes them to a whole different outcome than what they thought what was going to happen. What was it for you though? Like, have you always been intuitive? Like, have you had these types of gifts like early on in life, or did you have to develop them?
I'm not your typical intuitive who says, "Oh, when I was 5, I started seeing, people on the other side, or I started saying things." I was always intuitive, but I thought everybody was, so I didn't really think about it. And I have to look back now and see, like, synchronicity was happening all the time and at a very young age. And then when I really remember it vividly was like in high school, I'm sitting in class and the English teacher who I really liked would be trying to get our class to talk, and nobody would say anything, and nobody had read the book, and neither had I. And there was Tom Jones, this like thick volume sitting on my desk, and she's asking questions about Tom this and Tom that. And I felt sorry for her. So I opened the book at random, looked down, and there's the answer with great specificity. There's the answer to her question. And I'd raise my hand. So that used to happen, that I could turn to the right page, for example. That's intuition. That's something in your body that's going on. And then if you fast forward over time, in my late 20s, I was being interviewed for a job at the Department of Public Welfare for the Medicaid budget job. I would be an analyst reporting almost directly to the governor of the state. And my prospective boss asked me what my attitude, what I thought about healthcare in the future. And it was in the late 70s. And I looked at him. I did not know the answer. I didn't think about healthcare or healthcare costs. And I just tapped into something. And I told him with great confidence that healthcare costs were going to grow and at such a steep curve that it would become the point where people would be getting a job just for the healthcare costs and to cover the healthcare, that sort of thing. And he hired me for that. Then I discovered that I could read the collective, but I didn't think of it as a special gift. But I would be reporting to the governor, and I would say, people really, really are concerned about healthcare costs, or they're very concerned that we should get them all signed up for HMOs, and we can save a lot of money that way. And he would just look at me like, let's do it. That sounds good. And then it was later that I became interested in psychics and in the tarot, that I started to realize, oh, I've been doing this for years. And it's just that, and I want to also say that there are people out there, scientists, doctors,
Podcasters,
broadcasters, who are incredibly psychic and intuitive, and lawyers and doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, teachers, all people in all walks of life who never give themselves the credit for that. But that is how they operate. We all operate that way.
sure. So when you give readings, what does that look like? So do you use tarot cards? Like, I'm not really familiar. I mean, I've heard of them quite a bit, but I'm not certain on how they operate or work.
Are with me? What I do is I start by meditating with the person, and I ring a bell like we're going into meditation, and I have both of us focus on the light or the energy that's out there, and ask to go, like you were talking earlier about evolving and getting higher and higher. I have discovered how important that is. And so when I'm about to give a reading, I want us both to go to a high place, high consciousness. And so it's very spiritual, and it's also just very sort of psychological too. It's just focus on your body and on consciousness and on mindfulness. And I'll ask them to then ask spirit to bring light, to the reading. And as they're doing that, I start feeling things. Now, I'm an empath. I've learned that about myself. I feel what they feel. And I also feel them in their highest way that they can be. So I will start to feel things. I'll feel the pressures on their bodies. I'll feel it in my body. I'll also feel moments of light and love coming to them. So it starts the reading off. And I do use the cards, but not right away. The cards offer a kind of specificity for me. They're just pictures. And the mind, when we look at a picture, if you're a particularly visual type, which I am, then it accesses parts of your mind. It's more the artistic part or the creative part, and you do see more. I can teach people in one class to look at a picture and start to see something inwardly about a person who that picture reminds them of that they couldn't possibly know unless they could access that part of themselves. So I do that. I use the cards. I will throw a spread of cards that's, more organized around somebody's life. And that provides structure. But my readings are a mix. They're a mix of looking at the pictures in the tarot and seeing visions that come to me, feelings in my body. And then sometimes just something happens. Like you were talking about about the future as, what is it? How do we know it? What does it consist of? Well, when I'm reading a person and I sense, I don't know what it is, but I will sense that person is full of hope and optimism and drive, and they're going to get what they want and they're going to go for it. It's like a big portal opens up and I know they're going to make it. I know they're going to be successful. That is part of what happens in a reading. And if on the other hand, I sense the person has just given up, I mean, it's sort of common sense in that way. Mm-hmm. I'm giving you two extremes, but there is a lot of nuance in between. Then I don't know how they can succeed if they can't pump themselves up. So positivity and hope are really important.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Not to throw you on the spot. What are you getting from the vibe here? This energy, this my energy, I guess.
Oh, well, I mean, when you were talking a little bit about how you're evolving, the vibe I'm getting is that you love what you do. You have this, you want to evolve, you want to grow, and therefore you will. And even at times when you get discouraged, and I'm sure it's not easy to do what you do, and it's not always fun. And that even when you get discouraged, it's almost, Trey, like you can't not do it. Mm-hmm. And you're going to find your path. I also sense from you that the journey you're on is like you're performing a service. You're meeting people and you're broadcasting about them and you're giving them a platform, but you're also getting an education and you're trying to connect with people who you can learn from, and then you grow more and more. So I don't know where you're going to finally end up, whether you're going to keep doing this or whether you're going to start doing something even bigger this is pretty big stuff, what you're working in, but that you might change platforms at some point. I can't say. I would want to throw a card on that. And also I'd like, the way I see it is multiple paths that you could take depending on what delights you and motivates you.
Oh, multiple paths. I can barely figure out what I want to do for dinner.
I want to say that I feel that too at times. Like I'm sort of like a surfer on a board and the wave, and I'm going to fall off, and I don't know which way the wave's going to move. I don't know what I'm going to do next. Should I teach a class in intuition? Should I write a book? Should I just retire and start gardening all the time and hiking and see the places I want to see? It's funny. I think we're trying to live in the present moment and we're trying to let it carry us. And I do think that's authentic living. Mm-hmm. So I'm there with you too.
Could you imagine yourself retired? Just not doing this anymore, like gardening all day?
No, I can't. I really can't. Teaching others what I'm learning and discovering is so important to me. And activism too. I'm an activist in my town, environmental activist, I'm a political activist. So that's important to me too. When I see things that I don't think are right, I want to stand up and start shouting. Sure. But yeah, I can't imagine not doing it. But I can't imagine you not doing it.
Yeah, I know. I can't. Like I even imagine. I can't even imagine. Like I've tried to imagine not doing this, and I cannot imagine myself doing that. Like I will. The need for me is there. Like it's like pulling me. It's like just keep going. Like there is like the curiosity to learn more about consciousness. It's like there's something new to learn all the time. Like there's something that I'm going to learn from someone that I've never thought about before, a different perspective, a different connection, a different type of conversation. It gets me into these different states. Like I love just being here right now with you in this moment, talking about what we're talking about. And I just hope that it does provide a service for people. Like I do. I believe in the collective consciousness. I believe that there are pockets of happiness. There's a pocket of sadness and depression, and I want to contribute more to the happiness. And I feel like the more that I contribute to the happiness side of things, the more, positivity, the more that people awaken, like more people start awakening from this sleep that we've been in. I don't know if you can relate to that.
I totally relate to it. And in every way, first of all, consciousness is my jam, as it were. It's what I believe in and what I want to do. And also, I have some strong feelings about this based on the visions that come to me and things that I pick up. I really believe that what we're doing to the planet right now is putting us in a position where we have to grow up fast. We have to evolve. We have to change the direction. So far, we built civilization and also we're a very young species. We're 200,000 years old, and we're like toddlers as far as whether we'll make it into adulthood as a species is something I think you and I and many, many people, I call them light workers, but many people are obsessed with evolving right now. We crave to grow up, and we want each other to grow up. And part of it is to survive as a species, because we are not going to make it if we don't wake up and start working together and loving the earth. But it isn't, I'm not just this one issue person about that, because what is evolving, I think it's about love and about, it doesn't mean you have to be an activist. If you can just love yourself first and love others and help others do the same, give children your attention and animals and yourself, give yourself attention, then you're going to evolve. And I have to work at that every day. I have to do that constantly. When I'm giving a reading, I'm there. But in between, what am I doing in between? I'm like, and so I'm not living in ecstasy every minute. I'm a human, and I have issues, and I have worries, and sometimes I get obsessive, and sometimes I'm like mad, and then I believe that love and hope are the most important sentiments we can strive for, and gratitude and caring. And I don't always do it. I wasn't trained that way. And so I want to evolve, but I think that the reason that I want to evolve is, and the reason I want to teach it is because I think it's part of our survival.
No, I agree. I agree 100%.
Yeah. I'm happy to hear you feel this way. It's a wonderful feeling.
Well, yeah. What are some of the, so when you receive a download or a vision, like what is it, what does that look like? Is it something that is worldwide? Is it like, what is it?
It's really kind of crazy. On Wednesday nights now, I run a free Zoom meeting that anyone can come to. I call the Circle of Light, and people show up and I lead a meditation. It's just a pure guided meditation. And I did it for 3 nights a week, all through the pandemic. And then I went back to just 1 night. But when I do that, it feels like a channeling. It feels like someone out there is working through me. And they all think that too, the people who come. There's a pretty steady group of 20 to 30s. It sometimes goes up to 100, but it's a steady group. And they write about what they think is happening. And what happens is, and this happens in readings too, like one-on-one readings too, something feels like almost ecstatic or ecstasy. It's a really good feeling. And it just feels like something's flowing through me. And it feels like, it usually feels like good news. And it starts with a sense of, like, if I'm working with the group of people, everybody needs to relax. You get this, like these words coming through, drop all those burdens on your shoulders, let them drop. We got this. Who's we got this? Angels, spirits, I don't know, but there is a feeling of that we all need to, like, slow down and just be. And that really comes through strongly. So yes, visions, pictures, words. Sometimes when I can't get it, I will actually go and look at the trees. And I look at the trees outside my window. Or if I'm nervous or afraid, like one of my kids was backpacking around the world at one point, and I would just go out. I wouldn't use the cards, because the cards are wonderful, but they can often reflect your fears. They're not very good with anxiety for me. But I would go and look up at the tallest tree that I could, grandmother trees, and I would say, is my son going to be okay? Or is this person's life going to be okay? Is it going to work out? Are they ever going to find love? Things, big questions. And I would get these, it's like a whisper, but it comes in deep. It goes in deep and it feels really good. And that's a sign that I've hit some gold. I've hit some truth.
How did, when you started talking about these types of topics and, did you talk about it with your friends? Like, were you worried about what your family would say? Like, what did that look like? I know that it can be tough because a lot of people aren't where we're at, but what did that look like?
I learned the hard way that you have to be careful who you share this kind of information with. So I talked to my family about it, and they were pretty forgiving, but it wasn't what they believed, but they loved me, and they know that I'd been through a lot. And so they were willing to listen, and then I gave them all readings and they loved them. And so I remember I gave my father a reading 30 years ago, and my mother, and he was just listening, or I don't know what he was doing. He was kind of mind wandering. And my mother said, "Are you listening to this, Jeanne?" His name is Jeanne too. "Are you listening to this? She's got you pegged," like that. So, with the family, it was okay. It wasn't what they would do. And they would have preferred that I'd stuck with a traditional work, but they care. I'm careful about not sharing with people in my own hometown. I live in a town that has the highest per capita PhDs in the country. And although I'm pretty well educated, with a lot of education comes a lot of skepticism about anything that isn't already in the data. But, in fact, it really is in the data. There is a lot of great data about intuition and psychic stuff. It's just that you can't talk to people who don't believe. I've learned early on that seeing is not believing. Believing is seeing. So if they don't believe, you're really better off just leaving it alone. But when I started my forum and my website, the believers came to me, and then I tried to help them to become more, and almost to become more hard-headed. Like, let's use a combination of of intuition and data, and let's understand that we don't really know where all this comes from. Let's be agnostic, and rather than be so certain. So I think maybe I've answered your question.
Done a great job so far. Are you kidding me? Take over. Go ahead. It's all yours. Rest of the hour is yours. Like what skeptics, that word has just been so mistranslated. It used to be like someone that went out and just didn't try to find the end of it, right? It didn't disagree wholeheartedly, but just had like an open mind to things. Now it's turned into skeptic. Like, no, I don't believe that. No. I am very open-minded.
Obviously, yes.
Yes, I am very open-minded. There are times where I want to jump on the bandwagon, but I have to pull myself back in because, there are some things that get you excited, but you have to, I guess, open-minded intellectualism almost, right? Like there is data, right? Like near-death experiences with Raymond Moody. So much data, so many case reports. Did he ever prove life after death? No, he didn't, because he just got you to the pearly gates. He didn't get you on the other side of that.
Right.
And it's
I'm with you on that.
As much as I want to say he did, like
right.
Trey Downs is like, he showed us that there's life after death. He has so much data, but the data supports up to that point and back. It doesn't take you to the other side. The only way you're going to be able to do that is talk to a dead guy. And you can't replicate that really, right?
No.
You might be able to get a channel. You might be able to get a couple instances where you have these remarkable conversations with a psychic and someone who just passed over, but it's very hard to replicate, and you can't get tangible data or evidence. So it's I don't know. Somehow the paradigm has to shift in science. I don't know what that looks like, but there's truly remarkable things out there that need to be examined and investigated more. And near-death experience is one of them. Reincarnation is another thing that I love. Intuition, consciousness is the last frontier, in my opinion. Like that is something that we all need to be investing billions of dollars in, because that is truly what is going to get us over the hump. What you're talking about, the collective consciousness and surviving as a species, as a planet, like there needs to be change. We have to transcend the ego at some point, and we have to stop living our lives like this. Could you imagine if everyone awakened, or everyone started vibing on the same energy level and started just forgiving a little bit more, and started loving a little bit more, like what that would look like, even like a 20% increase in that, like what that would look like worldwide. It's amazing.
Incredible. It'd be incredible. And I mean, there's, you touch on so many things. I want to say, about life after death, and is it there, and is it real, and have we been able to prove it? And I mean, I read Anita Morani's book. I saw that you interviewed her, and I have listened to the Institute for Noetic Sciences and Dean Radin and his explorations of that. And I don't know the answer. I know that I have moments where I feel the energy of people on the other side. I don't know for sure if what I'm picking up on is the collective conscience, like the Plutonic ideal. What is, you take all the thought that's ever been and all the thought that is here, and you are picking the highest level of that. Is that what a spirit guide is? Is it some summation of all of us? And as I'm speaking, I can feel energy like saying, you're not giving respect to us. We're angels. We're here. And I don't know the answer. I know that sometimes I feel someone on the other side. I have felt that energy. I have felt those words. At one point, actually, it's happened 3 times. I felt an entity coming into me. And just like out of the movie Ghost with, Whoopi Goldberg,
with the pottery scene.
Yeah, I felt that feeling. And it was incredible. And I wonder, what was that? I'm fundamentally agnostic. I think, I'd say that there is a moment in a very great book called Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. he's probably one of the greatest writers of the 20th century. And he's telling a story in the beginning about trying to get at a nugget of truth. And he says that truth is like you're looking inside like a nut, like a coconut, and there's a glow coming out, and you can see the glow coming out. You know there's something in there, but you really can't get in there and know it. And then I read something that one of the great quantum physicists, Edwin Schrödinger, said about reality. And, the quantum physicists, these Nobel Prize winners, they were trying to figure out what the fundamental component of reality was. Like if you split everything and you split the atom, where is the universal field? What is it? And Schrödinger said, and he won a Nobel Prize on this. He said that reality is ultimately metaphor, symbolism. He said, we are not going to know. It's going to be through metaphor and symbolism. And that's so interesting because when I get visions, I often get them as metaphors. You get them as dreams. Dreams come in metaphors and symbols. I see the symbols, I see the visions. And so what is the truth? It may be unknowable by humans. It may be like we can't see certain levels of dimensions. We just can't. We can't see them. We can only get kind of ideas about them, get stories or visions. And that may be it, but that's good. I'll take it.
Like whatever learning I can get, and I tell you that much. Any type of feeling, emotion, like it's funny. The visions that I get, the meditation visions, isn't with my eyes open. It's like I don't know where it comes from. It's just, I don't know if you call it third eye. I don't know what imagination. But even your imagination comes from some type of creativity, some different consciousness level. So you're tapping into.
So what kind of visions have you gotten?
Well, so like I'll listen to recently, I will listen to because I get up so early and because my brain is just all over the place and it's hard to not have thoughts. So I'll just listen to sounds. So I'll listen to the beach. And so I'll be sitting on the beach and I'll try to envision the beach the way that I am sitting there, actually at the beach, but I'll be by myself. And recently I'll have, because of Easter and everything, I'll have visions of Jesus, some pretty powerful visions of Jesus coming and him and I having conversations or I'll, if I feel like I'm speaking to God, I'll be up in a mountain and we'll be talking and there'll be a ball of light and we'll have a conversation or just things like that. I'll have visions like that.
Yeah. I put myself on a mountain when I want to have visions. That's kind of cool.
Pretty powerful. It's awesome. I literally was having, I have a journal here. The really powerful ones I'll write down, and because I don't ever want to forget it. I think there's not very many in here because they got to be pretty powerful for me to write them down. The last one I just wrote was with Jesus. I'm trying to find it. So the last one, oh man, I'm kind of embarrassed to say this out loud. So sitting on the beach with Jesus, he says, "You are the Son of God too, but his life was to show you that you." All right, so it's weird states I'm in when I write this. So you are the Son of God too, but his life was to show you your potential.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, his life was an example of what the potential that we have as humans. Everything, every step of the way. You his death, his crucifixion was the death of the self, the I, and the ego. And then once you're able to transcend that, then you come into this, the spirit world, and the resurrection, and it's very, very deep and philosophical for me when I have this stuff. These are the learnings. These are the takeaways for me, but they're real. I that's why I write them down, because I don't ever want to forget them. I don't know. Do you have stuff like that?
Yes. And first of all, what you said about the ego, when I have many, many visions, but they're big ones. I have big ones, and then lots of little, but the really big ones are about, it has to do with dropping ego. And when I lead the circle of light, we do a loving kindness meditation, which is just love, just a lot of love, loving self and loving others. And I feel us all rising when we do that. And a couple of weeks ago, I was leading this meditation, and I got everybody to the point where we were circling the earth, like we had our hands around in a ring. We were circling the earth in our minds. And there are a few people from Australia, so we were able to actually circle the earth. And I was, we were loving everything. We were loving the oceans and loving the animals. And I suddenly got this voice that came through really strong. It said, we're going to make it through climate change. Now, I don't know how you feel about that stuff, but I have been obsessed over the years. Many years ago, I was obsessed with climate science. I know the science and I know the situation, and it's very grave. But I got this strong vision, and I feel like I feel like what happened was we reached a level of love of self and each other. It does surpass the ego, because everybody is you, really. And we are all one, which is why we can read each other, because we're all one. And that's been shown in quantum physics. That's been proven in physics. So I don't need it to be proven. I feel it, but I always throw that out because there may be somebody out there who's a skeptic. And so we're all one. And that's where the ego needs to dissolve. And we're sitting there loving each other and loving the earth. And I got that message. And I really felt like it resonates with you. What you said resonates with me, because I think to me, it's the same message, that if you love strongly enough and pervasively enough, if you can drop ego, it's very hard, but if you can, and we have it in moments, I work on it, we all work on it, then we're going to save ourselves, and we're going to save this earth. We're going to, and it's funny about climate change. Maybe this is a little bit of an aside. I don't know if I should go off on a tangent, but I believe the climate change is exponential. So once it really gets going, it's going to go straight up. It's going to go up, which means you were talking about the beach. It means that we could have 10-foot sea level rise in 5 years, not 5 years from now, but we reach the point where it's exponentially rising. And and it's not just sea level rise. We're trying to figure out how to beat the heat. How are we going to beat the heat when that's going up? So I'm very aware of that, but I'm also aware from visions that I've had that at the same point that it's exponential sea level rise and climate change, so too is the rising of the human spirit. It's exponential too. We are rising slowly at first, gradually, bit by bit, and then we're going way up. So who's going to get there first? I think we are. I think we're making it. And it comes from love, and it comes from hope. And so you do it in your own heart, you do it yourself, and you're going to help other people.
Yeah. No, I've
applied.
I have felt so much love and so much energy just recently from like being outside Mother Nature and like feeling it, like that energy, like that consciousness from nature. I just read a book. I can't remember it's like the archetypes of nature, right? Like there's some farm or something up north where they had like spirits in the woods for vegetables. I don't know. I can't remember the name of the book. God is in everything. I think it was called God is in everything. And basically this person was able to grow this garden, these herbs, vegetables, everything, just from communicating with the consciousness of nature and like grow these things. I mean, she would put whatever it needed to go on these things, like, and it would just, be very, very beautiful. It would produce all these different types of fruit and vegetables, and nobody else around the area could do it. And then like I read the book and I was like, yeah, let's just go out and see, what it feels like. And now I'm more sensitive to like areas in nature, in the woods, and just feeling it and being conscious and slowing down and seeing the flowers start blooming, right? The spring, life, birth, and seeing like the power, like just watching water and thinking about the consciousness that's in it. Like just thinking that it is a living thing. It is a tree outside. Like it is a living thing. It has consciousness. Everything has consciousness. Everything has energy. And it's like, it's so much more powerful when I go out and I look at these things. And I think this is creation. This is life. This is us. This is us. Like we're all connected. Like this is God here in front of me. Like the grass, the dirt, soil, trees, bark, whatever, dirt. I don't know. It's all from the same source. It all has this energy and you can feel it. And sometimes it's not good, right? Because like I'll go on like a nature path that a lot of people go on, that it's like, people come in and chop things down and try to clear things out. And it's like, you just get this vibe of like, it's like sadness almost. Like the woods have not been given the particular attention that it needs. It's like we're taking advantage of it, right? Like we're just there to look at its beauty and that's it. Like, walk our dogs, have the dogs poop in there, not pick it up. And, it's just, you can feel the difference in some areas. Like you can go out to the wilderness where it's very remote and feel it, the purity.
Yeah.
And then you can go somewhere that it's man-made trails and you're just like, you just feel that the woods are kind of like, how dare you forget me? How dare you not look at me? How dare you not take care of me? And I've never been conscious to that until recently. And it's fascinating.
It's interesting because it ties it all back to intuition. Intuition and being able to read people and read the collective is an understanding of the radical interconnectivity of all beings. And if we raise that understanding, like you had when you were out in the woods, you felt some kind of, it sounds like you felt connected to the trees and the dirt and the insects and the water. You felt this like, we are together here. I'm part of you. You're part of me. And it's true. And if we begin to feel that interconnectivity, we're home free. We will save the planet and ourselves. And people like when a tree is taken down, a live living tree, it hurts me. Now, I didn't always feel that way. In fact, it's funny because I used to love nature and love to go out in the woods and hike and everything, but I was just having fun. It was great. I think on a sensing level, I felt connected to everything. I remember I ran the New York Marathon a couple of times when I was younger, and it was in the last 5 miles when your body has given up and has no more. It has nothing more to offer. The only way to finish a marathon is in the head, in the mind, and I would look at the trees in the last 5 miles and just stare from tree to tree. Now, I didn't have this attitude that you are expressing now. Mm-hmm. And that I'm expressing now, but it was in our body. It lives in our DNA. We are all interconnected. And I love waking people up to that, not so they can do a parlor trick, not so they can just, wow their friends that they can read each other. I like waking people up to an understanding that we're all one, and they get it when they start reading each other. When they realize that they can actually see something in the future and that it happens, or that they can read how a person feels and it's true, walls come down.
Walls come down. Yeah.
Walls come down anyway.
No, I'm looking for that book because it's going to bother me now because I know you'd love it.
I would love it.
I think it's like God isn't everything. It's like a weird picture up front. Like
I would love it. You can text me later. I think it would be awesome.
Walls come down. Like, because then you start thinking about, well, it starts with we're all connected. You and I are connected. So that you start looking at your arch nemesis. You start thinking, hmm, that person and I are connected. I'm probably hating him because I am portraying what I hate about myself onto him anyway. Um, but you start thinking about him on a different level, on a soul level, or her, and then you slowly start to see, and then you start changing your emotion, your vibration, your frequency, and then they start changing all of a sudden. And then it's like you slowly, because it happens to me, like it happens to me. Like I'll try to. It's very hard, like you were talking about,
Yeah.
giving out that love,
Yeah.
giving out that love. It doesn't have to be smoochy, smoochy, huggy, huggy, kiss, kiss.
No,
It's
letting
just
down ego is very hard,
yes.
especially when you don't like what the other person's saying.
It's
And it
dropping the ego
hurts your
and
ego.
just being like he's lost or she's in a storm. I don't know what that storm is. I don't whatever the range
Yeah.
they're experiencing in their life. I don't know what that is. I'm just gonna let them be. I'm gonna allow them to be and say what they want because who am I to change them? You know, if we take the ego out of it, they're just another person. They're just another tree. And a tree is going to be a tree. That person's going to be who they are. And then take that out of it. Like we're all just here in this. How does Ram Dass say it? We're all in these spacesuits pretending to be. You pretend you're Jeanne, I'll pretend I'm Trey, and we'll just go along this path. But they all lead to the same place anyway.
Well, you know what's really interesting is that as far as hope for humanity, is that in the town where I live, which is, it's kind of a regular town outside of Boston, very Bostonian, very like high educated and all, they have started becoming alarmed at the division between the people in the town. And we've had some campaigns like, we changed Columbus Day to Indigenous People Day recently. And it was extremely divisive, and it was people were volatile and upset and angry and pissed. And they've started a social civil discourse course in the town, and come to find out that this is happening all over the country right now in politics, in small towns, that towns are teaching the townspeople how to talk to each other and how to find common ground. And it's a miracle to me. I mean, when I'm uptight about the future and spirit guides in my head say, let that burden down, we've got this, I feel like there's some truth to that, because I never expected or regular politicians in town, like town kind of council, to start something like this, but they're doing it. And on a grassroots level, love is happening in all different ways. Now, these folks are not psychic believers. They're not really into the new agey stuff. The problem is that divisiveness has become so painful. And what happened in the last 4 years was so excruciatingly painful. And we almost really lost our democracy. And the epitome on January 6th of things crashing and the pandemic, that people are now saying, we can't do this anymore. We have to do something. We have to love each other. So it is happening in different camps, and it's coming from pain, and out of pain is coming love, maybe something new. It's kind of cool.
I'm excited for something new. Yeah, I'm excited for that. Jeanne, I could talk to you for days.
Yeah.
How can people reach you? How can they connect with you?
Well, my name is Jeanne Mayell, Jeanne Mayell, and I have a website that's my name, JeanneMayell.com. And on there is the forum with all where anybody can come and talk and share visions and share information and see what we're saying about the future and also about now. And you can also reach me that way through the contact form, and that's always easy. So, or you can just Jeanne at JeanneMayell.com.
Jeanne, I love it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's really fun talking with you.
Oh, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Like,
you're very welcome.
I hope we covered everything that you wanted to talk about. I thought we got
I think we did. Yeah, I think we did. So I hope that I'd love to follow what you're doing. And if anyone's interested in what I'm up to, that they would reach out.